Matthew Olson, who is a big fan of yours, sent you this question. Sir, what do you think of the Transhumanist Movement, the attempts to merge humans with machines as the follow-up to the I can do whatever I want LGBTXYZ phenomenon?
I think you left out a few letters.
How do you think Catholics should combat this?
Well, that's a very good question. The whole transhumanist thing, for those of us who aren't aware of it, as I wasn't until fairly recently, is the idea of merging humanity, either or both, with machinery or via genetics, other species. Well, let me say this about that. We, or at least our rulership, have gone stark raving mad. But why not? We have no reason not to do anything we can, anything we feel like, anything that's open to us. We have no morals. We have no beliefs, except if it feels good to it. So, this is in fact just more of the same. I mean, if I can self-identify as a black woman or as a herd of sheep in New Zealand, wouldn't a technology that would allow me to self-realize that, in the real world, be a good thing? But it really goes back to what C.S. Lewis called the abolition of man, and hinted at in his wonderful book, which I highly recommend, That Hideous Strength. Basically, Satan himself and the fallen part of our nature is in actually concert with him. And by that I don't mean simply groups of people, I mean of each of us. Hate and reject what God has given us. We want to make it anew, partly to please ourselves, and in the end, partly to thumb our nose at the Creator, whether or not we pretend we believe in Him. It's monstrous, of course. The whole thing is monstrous. But one of two things will happen. Either our technological society at some point will collapse before we get to the point of actually being able to do this, or we'll do it, and that itself will be a punishment. It's a terrible thing. It's very, very grim. But I had a friend who years ago wrote a song, which mercifully for you I forget, but I remember the title, and it somehow seems apropos. Happy Songs for a Dying Planet. And so, I mean, basically we're talking about turning humanity into a race of Daleks. If you don't mind a Doctor Who reference. So, what can I say? It's yet more of the same.
What do you think is sort of the next thing that Catholics are going to have to stomach? I mean, this is probably a ways down the line. It sounds like genetic tampering.
And advanced robotics. And of course there's also the virtual reality revolution, which is fast upon us. And having actually done it, put on the helmet and all that.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you that it's amazing. You're in another world completely. And while it's fun, you can see we're getting further removed from objective reality. But what can Catholics do? Well, they can pray to begin with. Educate themselves, educate the people around them. But in reality, all of these wonderful dramas are taking place over our heads. I would recommend that if the chance comes to be merged with a machine, you don't do it. Perhaps having a child with bunny ears and a squirrel tail, nix it. Other than that, I don't see what we can do. Although, as I say, I suspect the regime will collapse of its own weight at some point.
Okay.